Awesome. Hello, welcome everyone. Hello. Here we are at another Wednesday Heart Wisdom panel. And today, my goodness, I've been really waiting for this because I need this conversation. We have Reverend Maggie Oman Shannon and Polly Campbell here to talk about living with uncertainty. And, I guess I probably don't need to say very much about this because we've all been living in this wild state of uncertainty for the past year and a half. And what with all of the grief and the illness and new variations of the virus and politics and whatnot, it has been a time. And so I know that we're going to have some really great tips and tools and conversation today. And before we just launch into it, Maggie has offered, thank you so much, to start us off with a little bit of a grounding prayer.
So this is a prayer, part of a prayer by Sister Joan Chittister, who some people may know. She's a prolific author and just a really incredible force of nature. If you don't know her work, you should check it out. And I chose this because it speaks to something that I'm going to speak to later in terms of what can help with uncertainty. But she also used the word uncertainty in it, so it seemed appropriate to launch our conversation. And as always, I invite you to substitute any words that don't feel resonant with you, particularly how they refer to the divine, just to use a word that does mean something to you. But I will read her words. Loving God, lead us beyond ourselves to care and protect, to nourish and shape, to challenge and energize both the life and the world you have given us. God of light and God of darkness, God of conscience and God of courage, lead us through this time of spiritual confusion and public uncertainty. Lead us beyond fear, apathy, and defensiveness to new hope in you and to hearts full of faith. Give us the conscience it takes to comprehend what we're facing, to see what we're looking at, and to say what we see, so that others hearing us may also brave the pressure that comes with being out of public step. Give us the courage we need to confront those things that compromise our consciences or threaten our integrity. Give us most of all the courage to follow those before us who challenged wrong and changed it. And so it is.
Oh, that was perfect. Thank you so much. I loved that. Why don't we start with you, Maggie, and have you introduce yourself for people who may not be familiar with your work? And also, as you're introducing yourself, if you would also let us know how you deal with uncertainty in your own life.
Chocolate. Sometimes I do use chocolate to deal with uncertainty. My name is Maggie Oman Shannon, and I am a congregational minister. I serve a Unity Church in San Francisco. I'm the author of 9 books, all of which Brenda, who's joined us, had something to do with. And my latest is Have Hope. And I'm very proud of it. It's really funny. It's an anthology. It's not something I wrote every word in, to say the least, but I'm very proud of how this came together. And obviously, being the minister of a group of people, I've had this question come up before. And I think one thing to consider in our conversation, we may want to go other places first, but I think this is where the idea of mindfulness, the Buddhist concept of mindfulness, can be so helpful. And I'm not sure, do other people hear the dog?
That is my dog out in the other room. I am very sorry.
Polly, we might have you mute just while your dog is...
Let me do that. It'll be over.
Come back to us.
But this idea of mindfulness, of being in the present moment, I think can be a very helpful tool because we are living in such an age of uncertainty, and there are things that none of us have ever experienced before, like a global plague, a pandemic, and this concern of, will I catch it? Will my loved ones catch it? And so I think that's where this idea of just staying in the present moment and realizing where you are, right now, right here, all is well. I'm safe. I'm not sick. Everything that I need is here now. I think that's a very good way to start when we start to spin out of control. And of course, that's not to say that there aren't times when we are being faced with real challenges, when things aren't perfect right here, right now. And I was only slightly kidding when I said chocolate. I mean, I think that probably all of us have found less productive ways to deal with it. And I think we need to give ourselves a pass. We're facing something that we have just never seen before. And if we find ourselves binging on Netflix or, ordering pizza or, whatever it is, I think we need to give ourselves a pass in those moments. But definitely, I think that idea of just being in the present moment and thinking, is what I'm worried about happening right now? And if the answer is no, just really rest in those feelings and hold on to them.
Oh, what a perfect place to start. I love that. And I was just thinking when you were talking about mindfulness and just being right here, I couldn't help but just look at these beautiful faces who are here and the gratitude that we can be here in this circle together. You started us off with just a gorgeous prayer. And yeah, I just love that. Like just being right here now and letting ourselves go where the conversation goes and take comfort in whatever nuggets are coming our way. So thank you for that. Thank you. Miss Polly, good to see you again as well. I'm going to pause for 1 second and make sure. I know that Bree can go ahead and mute anyone who's got some background noise. Thank you, Bree. And Polly, hi.
Hi.
Will you tell us about yourself and your own ways of handling uncertainty?
My name is Polly Campbell. I'm the author of several books, including my recent one, You Recharge, which I'm super excited about. And the cover, I love the cover. When I look at it, I feel energized. And that's what the book is about, really. How to get unstuck, how to manage our feelings of burnout. And I was at work on it before the pandemic. And writing a book is an uncertain thing. You have ideas you want to transfer and articulate, and you're not always sure how to do that. The pandemic, I think all over our lives, we have uncertainty. It's just we haven't thought about it in the same way as we have lately, right? Because this is a new experience for us. I love Maggie's idea about the pizza, actually. But the pizza is good, and also be present to where you are. The way I think about that is when I am wondering, I'm not worried. So I try to get curious when I feel myself. Now, often I do start from a place where I'm ruminating and I'm spinning and I'm becoming nervous and what if. When I start to get curious, wonder why I'm feeling that right now. Or what did I just learn that's making, when I start to get curious, then I can't worry anymore. I begin to wonder, and that changes the energy about everything. And what I find when I do that, when I lead with curiosity, is that uncertainty gets a bad rap, right? Because when we think of uncertainty, we think of only negative outcomes. What if I get sick? What if somebody I love gets sick or dies? What if I lose my job? What if I get a better job? Yeah. What if we pull together as a country or a community to work through and I form new relationships and friendships through that? What if I get more resilient? Uncertainty simply means the unknowing, and it's uncomfortable because we like to think we're in control. We like to think we know. But for me, it's more a product of trusting myself that however it goes, I'm capable of coping. I might not like it. I might hate it. I might cry. I might eat pizza. I might whatever. But I'm capable of reaching out to the people who can help me, of learning what I need to know. So that helps me cope, that baseline belief. And then the knowledge to the times I've been most uncertain in my life have often turned out to be a greatest gift. And so when I am feeling uncertain, I try to leave room for that space too, the possibility of goodness right along next to the possibility of difficulty. I think both can be.
Oh, Polly, that was just, I just felt the light bulb go off when you said that, right? Like, because what it made me think is something we were talking about before everyone else came on, which is that when we do these weekly panels, we don't plan out what I mean, we know the topic, but we don't know what we're going to talk about. We don't really know where it's going to go. There is an uncertainty about that, but that I never associate that with something negative, and so I love what you said about looking at uncertainty in this bigger way of, yeah, it could be like that, where we just trust that something's going to happen. We'll be capable of showing up for it. I loved that.
And sometimes it's not by myself. It's like, you know, it's reaching out to your church. It's reaching out to your friends. It's going to a therapist. It's going to whatever it is. But knowing that you can leverage the resources you need for whatever shows up in your life.
Yeah. Maggie, did you want to jump in there with anything?
Well, I just wanted to also, inject this idea that we think that we're living in an age of uncertainty because of the pandemic, but the truth is we're always living in uncertainty. Pandemic or no pandemic, life is uncertain. And so it is kind of incumbent upon us to learn some skills with how to deal with it, and to remember that it is, and that at any moment we may not have this wonderful experience of life, and that doesn't need to be a scary thing, or a negative fear or worry, but that it can inform actually how we choose to live. How we choose to live our lives can be, and I think to be the most happy, should be a result of living a life that we're proud of, that has meaning, creating that in every given moment. And then that worry about the uncertainty isn't quite as pronounced.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Right. And I love that. I love that you brought us right back to that illusion that we may have been living under pre-pandemic, as if we didn't know, right? And I think if we were all talking back then, we'd have plenty of things to talk about uncertainty around. But I think it feels more pronounced right now. And already, I mean, we're only just a little bit into this panel, and already I can see like the shifting happening of the way we see it. And especially what you just said, Maggie, is so important. We don't know. That's one of the biggest uncertainties that we all live with our entire lives. How long do we have? How long do the people we love have? And that can be what fuels us to really love as best we can every day. So thank you for that reminder. Yeah. I know that you each brought us something to read. Shall we go there? And thank you, Bree. She's posted the links in case people don't yet have these wonderful books. But yeah, Maggie, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Let me close out this chat. I picked something that was in my Have Hope online file. I don't think this made it into the book, but I'm still collecting hope quotes. I did it for 20 years, Brendan. I'm still doing it. So if we want to do a Have Hope too, I may have an entire new selection. But this is one by a woman named Nikki Banas that I thought would be really helpful in terms of this idea of uncertainty. And she wrote, if you only carry one thing throughout your entire life, let it be hope. Let it be hope that better things are always ahead. Let it be hope that you can get through even the toughest of times. Let it be hope that you are stronger than any challenge that comes your way. Let it be hope that you are exactly where you are meant to be right now and that you are on the path to where you are meant to be. Because during these times, hope will be the very thing that carries you through.
Mm, that is the perfect quote.
I thought it was really good. It's true, right? I mean, when you're dealing with uncertainty, as Polly pointed out, uncertainty isn't always negative. It can be a hopeful and an exciting thing too. And I was thinking about my daughter recently leaving for college. I know it was uncertain to her. She didn't know what she was getting into. Um, it's understandable to be a little wary of change, but as Polly pointed out, changes can be good, and I think she's having a great time. So that idea that what we hold when we're going through uncertainty, through change, can absolutely affect our experience of it.
I totally agree, and I think hope, that word, is when I heard you read that, when I thought about it, it just means the holding of possibility, right? The possibility of some, and to me, right there, even thinking in those terms changes how I feel about anything going forward. If I'm a big sports fan, and if I knew which team was going to win every game, I wouldn't be a sports fan. There has to be some opportunity for us to engage in order to create a rich life. And if we knew every outcome, we wouldn't have to engage. So the contrast then is we get to live with the uncertainty and the not knowing. And like in the case of the pandemic, we're not very familiar with pandemics. Fortunately, we've never done this. Now, when I got married, I felt a lot of uncertainty. When I had a child, I feel uncertainty every day as a parent, right? I don't know how this is going to go. And yet there's this belief and this knowledge that I'm still going to show up and do the best I can. And as I become more familiar, I become more skilled at writing or at parenting, or I learn different things. So as this pandemic goes on, as these other things happen into our life, we also have an opportunity to become more skilled. We might not cure the pandemic. We might not be able to solve every challenge we're facing, but we will become more skilled as we go through it. And the nature of the uncertainty, I think, will shift.
Ah, yes. Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. And I also love what you're both pointing to, which is that we do have a choice about how we approach things. We have a choice about, I love that. Like, we can carry hope, we can carry possibility. What is it that we carry into each day, even within all of the uncertainty that we're facing? I love that. Yeah, because it's sort of empowering to have that choice.
Well, I think that's the only certainty, right? We
Yep.
get to decide how we're going to show up. That's the only thing we can do for sure.
It's true.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very true. And I
Yeah.
was I was thinking about Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, where I think most of you are nodding your heads, you know it, but he was um, a psychiatrist who noticed that in the concentration camp where he was also, the people who did the best were people who were hopeful, who made this mean something, rather than the ones who just gave up and were depressed. So that agency, the self agency we have to choose our reaction to any experience we're in, even being in a concentration camp, it's so important. It's actually something I preach a lot about, in my church. It's that, you know, as Polly said, it is the one thing that we have, no matter what the situation is, our
And
ability to choose.
Reverend Maggie, don't you think too that You can hold both. You can be uncomfortable and empowered. I feel that, and sometimes I fall into this trap too, where I become more rigid. Like, well, if I can't fix this, everything's for loss. And that's rarely true, right? We can have it both ways. We can feel uncertain and still head off on a path of response that can help our situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about a photograph. I almost tried to get it out to see if I could show it to you as a visual aid, but I think Zoom would not do it justice. But we just celebrated the 20th, not celebrate, but we just acknowledged the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And 6 weeks after 9/11, I had been asked to give a workshop at Marble Collegiate Church to in the wake of the publication, The Way We Pray. So I was in Manhattan 6 weeks after that. Saw the makeshift shrines on the site. I've got goosebumps just talking about it. The shrines that were on the sidewalks, felt the palpable care that people on the streets were extending to one another. Um, and while I was there, we went to a gallery that had been set up where they asked people, anybody who had taken a photograph on that day, the photograph could go in the gallery, and if you bought it, then the proceeds would go to some of the families who had lost people at 9/11. And I bought a photograph, and it's amazing to me. And you may have seen it because it became a very famous photograph. It was taken on a Brooklyn apartment building, top floor. And in the background, you see the Twin Towers burning. And in the foreground, you see a mother holding her baby. And her face is turned toward her baby. And again, I've got goosebumps. It's the most amazing photograph I've ever seen. And I bought that photograph, and I'm bringing it up now because it's such a perfect illustration of what you just said, Polly. It's like, it's not about denying the bad. It's not about putting our heads in the sand and pretending it's not happening. It's about holding all of it. The discipline, the spiritual fortitude to hold all of it. And there's always that beautiful baby in front of us. If we look for it in any given situation, there is always the equivalent of something beautiful and true and good to focus on as well. So it's an amazing one.
Wow. Thank you both, right? Yet another nugget here, right? I feel like I started to make a little list of like all of these beautiful, right? We promise like different ways of coping and thriving, actually, not just coping. Yeah. Holly, I know that you also brought us something from your book.
Yes, I've been thinking a lot about the way we renew our energy and restore, and the way we allow our energy to drain off. And sometimes it's just pure fatigue. And this is a fatiguing situation. Life can really drain us at times if we let it. And so my book, You Recharge, is about bringing that energy back to self in chi, vitality, whatever word you want to use, but in a way that's practical, so that you can live and the way you want to live, whatever that is for you. So you have a resource to draw on. So I'm going to read a short sample from my chapter called Sustainable Energy, and this is called Cultivating Core Energy, this section. Cultivating core energy all starts from within, the core, your very essence, that deep and tangible place where our soul meets our solar plexus and creates the radiant life force. Vitality sits there. It also grows from there. When you fill up on the things that inspire, excite, expand your entire being, your mind, body, spirit, you will recharge in the doing. Like driving the van around to recharge a drained battery, you fill up with energy by doing the things that fill you up, that add meaning, intrigue, instead of the things that drain you and offer little more than stress, boredom, burnout, fatigue. Sustainable energy grows in incremental steps. Right now, look at the areas of your life where you'd like to feel a little more enthusiasm and interest. Consider the places where it feels as though energy is draining away. Are you eating too much junk food, watching too much TV, losing too much energy to work, or mindlessly scrolling through social media? What would you like your days to feel like? What is the one thing that might raise your energy level just a bit? Consider it how you would feel if you did that thing. Don't judge where you sit right now, just be curious. Look at what you're lacking and then look at the possibilities that are there for you too. Find the things that are already present in your life and go from there. And I really think about that. I took my daughter to school. She just started school a couple days ago after 18 months of being home, and she's in high school. And so she went from summer sleep in at 10, 11, 12 to needing to get up at 6, and she is tired. And I watched her this morning drag herself out of bed, and then she turned on some music she liked, and then she nourished her body with some healthy food, and then she texted with a friend who made her feel good about herself, and then we had a moment for a hug and a good conversation. And by the time she left, she was filled up again. And we need to do this for ourselves on a physical level. Sure, nourish your body with food and exercise, things that make you feel good. But a spiritual, emotional, and intellectual level, reach out to the people who inspire you. Go to them and soak it up. This is why I'm here today, because you people fill me up. And I always am better after I walk away. That inspires me, and that rejuvenates my energy. And fill up by looking at artwork and words like hope and the photographs that move you, and replenish the energy that you're giving out into the day by nurturing yourself with the things that fill you up. And so when the uncertainty comes in, when the challenges come in, you have some clarity. You know where to turn to buoy yourself, because it's going to come, right? The pandemic is not going to be the last hard thing we face in our lives. I wish it were so, but it is not the reality. So what are we going to do to replenish ourselves in those moments so that we can do what Maggie said and see the beauty right there too? We can do all that, but we've got to nurture that inner vitality to have the external vitality to share with the world to do it.
Oh, yes. Oh. And I love how, what's happening for me is all of our conversation is sort of intersecting, because I remember thinking, and it wasn't the right time to say it, but when we were, Maggie was saying chocolate or pizza or, let yourself, which are all true, right? Like that there's this one side, which is like self-care as giving ourselves a pass, not having, these extreme expectations. But just like with what we were saying about the other balance in life of there's this balance, and Polly, I think that's what you're tapping into, which is asking ourselves that important question, is this going to nourish me? And sometimes I think, yes, I think sometimes it's the chocolate in the movie or whatever is what will nourish us. Sometimes that answer is going to be no, I need to go for a run. I need to call a friend, I need to, to do any of the things that I know that are going to truly nourish me in a different sort of way. So like with everything, right, there's this having to be back to the mindfulness too, back in the moment, and really checking in, what is it? Like your daughter, I love that, how wise.
I know.
Yes, sometimes in our best days, right? Me too. And sometimes I want to gripe and complain. And that's where I think we have this personal responsibility, not only to take care of ourselves, but nobody's getting through any of these situations alone. And we know that emotions are an energy that are contagious. And again, going back to what we said before, this doesn't mean to deny. I mean, I'm not going out in the world and saying, oh, this is great. This is such a great time. But I can go out in the world and say, hey, this is really hard, and I know you're struggling with this, and I am too, but I'm taking care of myself so I can help you. That's the thought in my head. Like, I have some responsibility to nourish my child, to follow the rules in the community so other people are healed and healing and safe. And I have to be centered and grounded and balanced with myself so that I have the clarity to do those things. And that's where I think my personal responsibility comes in. And that doesn't mean I don't go off kilter. That doesn't mean I haven't had a lot of tears or stress. But in those moments, become mindful, like Reverend Maggie said, and settle back in and ground yourself in that self-awareness. Say, oh, I'm really ungrounded. I'm really feeling icky about this. Okay, now what? What can I do to replenish that?
And that kind of dovetails into something that I was also thinking about regarding the subject. And that is the wonderful phrase that now we probably hear too often, but attributed to Fred Rogers, who said, told the story about when he was a little boy and he was upset, and his mom said, always look for the helpers. So, that's another thing that I think is helpful during a time of uncertainty, is to see who's out there doing things that are changing, the circumstances we may be feeling uncertain about. And even more than that, why I wanted to dovetail with Polly's comment, that we ourselves can be the helpers. We don't have to just passively look for the helpers that are out there, but to actually become a helper, because there is something about taking action that is always going to help one feel better. That's always, because what happens when we're feeling uncertain? We start to feel like a victim. We start to feel powerless. We start to feel passive. Like, when is this horrible thing going to happen to us? But anything we can do to, just involve our life force and, remind us that, hey, we've got a lot of power, and just to step out and use it, even if it's a simple thing, even if it's giving a neighbor, cookies, or what, I don't know, giving money on the over the internet, supporting a cause we believe in. There's always something we can do that can help us get out of those feelings of victimhood.
I absolutely agree. In some Eastern traditions, I've read that one of the things that they say is, when you are facing your most difficult challenge or biggest problem, go over and sweep your neighbor's porch. And I think that, and I've done that in some moments in my life, not literally swept the porch, but checked on a neighbor or sent a casserole or a meal to somebody who needed it. Because I think it's worthwhile to get out of my head and understand that this is real for me, and so it must be real for someone else, right? And it's in the coming together and that connection and the giving of myself that I actually reminded myself of my own power. And that's not to sacrifice. I am not giving all my money away, right? I am not only giving to other people and not giving to my family. So again, you don't have to save the entire world all at once. You can sweep the neighbor's porch next door and make that guy's day a little brighter, and he's going to go on and save the rest of the world with his porch sweeping. There's room for all of us to do that.
Well, right. And it's bringing up my favorite thing to say when I'm here and looking at all of these wonderful faces, and even if it's not your face, but your name, but showing up is a way to be a helper, and I never want people to forget that. If I were the only one here on the Zoom, I can tell you it wouldn't be nearly what it is for me every week, which is when I see your faces, when I hear what you're saying, when people ask questions or share, or just being here, because the energy is a way of helping too. That is huge, especially, and I think this is a time that I want to just give a big hello and kudos to Brenda. So, Brenda, talk about being a helper, which is, associate publisher of Mango. And, you're the one who brought us all here. And since you are here, I love to say hi and have you jump in and, whatever you want to say about these two wonderful authors or the topic.
Oh, well, they're definitely both helpers. And I think that was actually what attracted me to Canary Press in the mid to late 90s, leaving HarperCollins, like where I made more money, but like I felt like working for Rupert Murdoch was starting to compromise me. And so I made a values choice to moved to a little tiny indie publisher. But like, you know, that I thought they were like the kindest people in publishing, because they were publishing Random Acts of Kindness, which was a huge success. And so I saw Canary go from like 4 people to like 20 people in a couple of years, but it still was always lean but never mean, I like to say. And like there was definitely like magical things, you know, like Mary Jane Ryan, like knowing like to tap Maggie Owen Shannon even before she was Reverend Maggie Owen Shannon for Prayers for Healing, which is a book that I know has helped tens of thousands of people and offered them solace and comfort. And I feel like with Viva, where I published both Polly and Maggie, like I tried to keep some of that super positive helper energy that Canary had and like take it to the next level. And I would say actually that's what I'm trying to do at Mango, to the point where even like Mango's company motto is books that make a difference in the world. You know, so like every book has to be a positive, has to be, books can be helpers. So these two are helpers who wrote books that are helpers. And I will just also say that I think that Wednesday Heart Wisdom like is like sort of a helpers huddle every week, you know,
that's great.
Get together and pump out positive energy. Sometimes we talk about really serious things and have takeaways. And so, you know, I like that it goes deep, even if it's just about kindness or if it's trying to like figure out what we can do to make it a better world. So I feel like this is, I look forward every week to the Helpers Huddle, and I'm enjoying this one. And interestingly enough, this one is speaking directly to a need I didn't even realize I had, but like the more they were talking, I was like, boy, I needed this today. And that happens a lot too, actually. But I guess that's the synchro destiny of it all.
It is. There's a certain je ne sais quoi about this, right? That happens. And
yeah,
thank you. That was beautiful. Yes. I'm just wondering if anyone else who's here, if you want to jump in with a question, a comment, a story. Love to hear from you. Ms. Rachel.
I have to say, just like Brenda, this was exactly what I needed, and the perfect divine timing. I mean, it was just divinely timed how it came, and just everything that was being said, because I had on September 11th, I had an actual traumatic experience. My daughter was cheering at a football game and someone yelled, "Run, gun, run." So hundreds of people start running, and I'm running and I can't find my daughter anywhere. And, but for whatever reason, because of all the training and all the tools and everything I had, I was fully present in a way that I was seeing it in a totally different way. And so I'm, worried because I cannot find my daughter, but I have eyes everywhere because of the community I have, and like Reverend Maggie was saying, it's like, I could spot these things in the darkness of this. I could spot these things. I spotted the people helping the people over the fence. I spotted the parents helping frozen children move. I spotted the comfort and the care these siblings were giving each other and taking care of each other. And, it's funny that you brought up Man's Search for Meaning, because I take so much comfort in looking back at those stories. And I remember saying, if they can do it, so can I, and like in that moment, I'm not that person that like thinks to do a lot in the moment, but after I got to actually write a piece to help people process it and to help people talk about it, because nobody was talking about it. And then watching the floods of people comment and tell their stories and share their pain of it and share their process of it, to me, that was beautiful. because so many people shove it down, and just then it builds up, and we know what that turns into when you don't process it. So yeah, I mean, here coming today and with the hope and with you, it's just perfect. I mean, it really is.
Rachel, I want to jump in because I saw something you wrote also, and I didn't want to bring that up unless you wanted to talk about this, but how your mind was also filled with hope and turning already to become the helper, right? You immediately move from that place, and I think that's the beauty of challenge sometimes, and the beauty of uncertainty is it might be super uncomfortable, but it also can change the world for the better, for in ways that we don't even anticipate if we allow it, if we take it in and don't push it down, like you said. Not that you want to have that experience. I'm glad everything's okay, but thank you for being sitting with that, because I think it'll make a difference for everybody else.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, and I keep my brains keep going. I'm like, because I see it happening all over the world. So I'm like, how can I help all these people process? How can I? Yeah. So my mind's going. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Rachel.
I love being here. It always inspires me.
And that was such a beautiful piece you wrote, and maybe we can put the link in when we do the replay, because that was really gorgeous. Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in?
I think sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for being able to respond in resourceful ways when faced with a moment like Rachel just recounted, and how wonderful it was, Rachel, to hear your awareness that all of the work that I'm sure, and know that you've done fortified you so that you could be of help. And I'm always intrigued when I, have some kind of challenge and I somehow rise to meet it, because I also have awareness of freaking out over the stupidest things.
Me too.
So I always feel sort of, gratified that when it really counts, I can rise to the occasion. But I think we all need to be reminded sometimes that we do, we really do. It's it's kind of the emotional equivalent of the person who can suddenly lift a car off the trapped child underneath. That something in us can rise to that occasion, and I think we all can have confidence that if we've done our work, that's going to come into play. So I saw in the chat that someone, Brenda, was saying how lucky the people were, Rachel, to have you around, and I totally agree.
Yeah.
And that was a direct result of you being who you are and doing the work that you've done.
And I think that's where the practice comes in, right? Sometimes when I say practice, because I do plenty of freaking out. I am well practiced at freaking out also, and getting upset over little things. Right. And then I have the practice that comes in and reminds me who I am. And who I am is a self-aware, mindful person. And who I am is vulnerable. And who I am is intelligent. All these things, a spirit. And so when I talk about practices, people get scared because they're like, I already exercise an hour a day. I don't have time for one more thing. But what I'm talking about is practice when you have a difficult phone call, or practice when you have dishes to do, or practice during the course of your day, showing up for yourself and moving with clarity and intention and mindfulness, because it's like your emergency kit. We have a canned food, and we have water, and we have supplies in case there's a natural disaster here. Well, I have I call it emotional bounce back kit that allows me to be agile and resilient. And it's not always perfect, but it means that when I'm really freaking out, I can find my way to mindfulness because I've practiced before the trouble started. And those things kick in for you so that you can show up like Rachel did, and like we all have been challenged to do in one way or another in our life. Sometimes for me, I'm using every skill I have just to get the kid to sit down to the dinner table. Sometimes it's taking everything I have, and that's okay. That's my practice time. That's my rehearsal. And when I do it in those moments, then it's there for me. In the more difficult moments when I'm not sure what to do, then that experience comes in and that memory comes in. Oh, I know just what to do here. I know just how to do this.
Holly, I love that, because that was actually one thing I was going to ask you about the emotional emergency kit. So I love that you brought that in. And I feel as if we're kind of creating a little bit of an emotional emergency kit right now. I just thought I'd share with you. I've been writing down, different tools as we've been talking. And we talked about, hope, and we talked about possibility and knowing that we can choose to bring those into the situations. And we talked about self-agency, right? Knowing that we have that. And holding both, right? Holding, this and this, being able to hold all the conflicting emotions. We talked about looking for the helpers and being the helpers. And we talked about self-care, all the different kinds of self-care, which of course the emotional emergency kit is a form of self-care. And so I loved that. And just for all of us to be thinking after we leave this circle too, like what goes into, what else goes into that emotional emergency kit? And I know, Polly, I want to do this before you have to run, that you have a little something for us that I think is going to be a part of this conversation right now about the emergency kit.
Yeah, one thing that I have in my emotional emergency kit is a way to relax myself so that I can get to clarity when I'm really stressed out. A breathing exercise, that's something I've practiced, and a mindfulness exercise. I also have practiced emotional agility, which is being able to accept what is about the situation and then having the ability to change my mind and look at it from different directions so I can be responsive. And another practice that I have is more concrete, which I also need, because sometimes my mind is all a Twitter and I need to ground myself. And I learned this from Beth Darnell, who's a neuroscientist who specializes in pain management. And what research tells us is that the way we think about physical and emotional pain changes our experience of it. So if you're having, for instance, if your leg or your back is chronically in pain, you have chronic pain. If you sit and think, oh, I am washing dishes, this is really going to hurt me. I'm really going to hurt. Tomorrow's going to be really bad. My pain is only going to get worse. There's nothing I can do. I have chronic pain. You actually will have a more pronounced experience of physical pain. And the same is true emotionally. So think about it. If you're going to the doctor and you're feeling anxious anyhow and you're sitting there, oh, I know it's going to be bad news. I know I'm going to you feel more emotional pain. So what Dr. Darnell suggests is to create strategies that you can write on a business card or a credit card size and stick in your purse or your pocket or your wallet. And next time you're going down the rabbit hole, you can pull out this card and look at it and say, okay, I'm really stressed out. Oh, right. I know right now I just need to listen to this favorite song right now. And you turn on that favorite song. Or I need to do a breathing exercise for, a count of 4 for 5 minutes. Or I need to go for a walk around the neighborhood. You have 10 things on your list so that when you're not thinking and when you feel yourself get all wound up, you can pull that out, look at it quickly, and go back to your baseline so that you can live from a place of greater acceptance and greater clarity. And from that position, then we're less reactive, more responsive, we make better decisions. So one of the things I do is read. And I was feeling this yesterday. I was feeling really, really anxious. And I knew I just needed a timeout. I was not making good decisions. So I went and grabbed a Mango book. I got to tell you, I have a bookshelf full of other authors' Mango books. And I pulled it out and I set the timer for 5 minutes. I just read a book that was inspiring to me and lifted me up. And after that 5 minutes, I got up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm making too much out of this. I got it. I got this. Let's go back. And I went back and got to work. Sometimes I'll turn on if it's not Barry Manilow, it might be Wilson Phillips, that song, Hold On. My daughter just comes and she freaks out. She thinks it's like the worst music on the planet. But I can listen to that or something might cool me, and I can be back up to speed in just a few minutes, re-grounded, because I forget and I move into that place of wonder again and into worry. I forget that I'm upset. I move away from worry and into wonder and curiosity. And so that list, my list, has been really helpful to me. Write down the things that move you, that ground you, that make you feel, it might be chocolate. I have go out and take a cup of coffee on the deck as one of the things on my list. Because sometimes I need to go outside and feel the breeze and feel the sun or smell the rain, and I love coffee. That helps my spirit. And I have things that will apply to any situation, from the time I'm in the car to if I'm in a meeting. I've walked out on stage for a keynote and I didn't know what I was going to say, and I went through one exercise right in my head, and I came out of it just fine. And so write the things that speak to you on your card, put it in your pocket, use an index card or put it in your wallet. And it's okay to draw from that when you can't find the resources otherwise.
Oh, Holly, I'm so glad you brought that. And I hope that people will really do this, not
really do it. It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing what it's done for me. Yeah.
And I thought it'd be fun. I don't know if other people have any, but if something did come to mind, like for me, what dropped in is something most of you know, because if you ever show up early, it's one of the practices I do to get out of whatever stress or, anxiety I'm in and to get here, which is that practice of, what's something beautiful that you saw today. And for myself, I'll usually take myself just on a, 2-block walk, and I'll say, find 3 beautiful things. And that gets my mind focused, right? I'm just looking for beauty, and it calms my nervous system. And a lot of times I show up here, and I brought anxiety or stress or hard things. And I don't want to show up with all of that when I'm here with you. So that's one of the things I'm going to put on my card. And I'm just wondering, did anybody else have anything that dropped in that might be helpful to share?
I have a prayer, and I love it because it's so all purpose. And people who've been to a Unity church are familiar with it. A lot of people who haven't been to a Unity church are familiar with it. It's called The Prayer for Protection by James Dillett Freeman. And it really serves as, a series of affirmative statements. And what I like about it is that you can say it in the first person if you need help, in the second person if you want to say it to a child. You can use it in the third person, we. And it's the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. So again, substitute whatever word for God might be more resonant for you, but I just love it because you can, I've calmed a child down with it, or said it in a group, or said it to myself. And that idea, just kind of jumping off what Polly said, of having a series of affirmative statements or affirmative prayers, songs. My teacher, one of my teachers and mentors, Angeles Arian, used to say that you should have a repertoire of 100 songs, prayers, and poems that you can recite at will. Now, I have never been able to achieve that.
That's a great idea, though.
Isn't it? It's a worthy goal. Something that's going to uplift you or inspire you or recenter you, to have that in your mind so that wherever you are, you could pull that out. I think it'd be a good tool.
I love that. And Reverend Maggie, I love the idea of actually having them. My son and I were learning poetry together a few months ago. And part of it, it's really lovely to be able to pull it out when it's appropriate. And I was thinking, like, how comforting to someone to just be able to, well, we could also just have it printed out, right, and carry it around with us.
Right.
That too would be, yeah, that's beautiful. Love that. Brenda, and then Rachel.
Well, I just wanted to say that Polly has a writing workshop coming up, and we know it's blasting through your blocks, and we know it'll be spiritual writing and how to I think you can sort of heal yourself with your writing, and I think all of you have. So anyway, I put that in the chat. So that's just an FYI from me, and it's sponsored by the Women's National Book Association, which is helping women writers. It's a nonprofit dedicated to helping women writers. So Polly is being a helper for the
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that.
Yes, yes. We'd love to see you there.
I love that. And do you have, Brenda, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have something that you use when you're particularly needing to kind of get grounded or to take a break from stress or uncertainty?
Yes, I do weeding. I am very lucky to have like a little backyard and it has a garden, and I find weeding very therapeutic, like just pulling grass sometimes. And I need to like memorize this and put it on the hard drive of my mind. But there literally is something, some like I don't know whether it's a scent or something that like happens when you put your hands in the dirt and it releases this, and it's calming. It's calming to the body and brain. So I need to like do a little bit more research, but like that's why, you know, many gardeners are like relaxed people, and like, you know, gardening is actually hard work, but like people do it because they love it and for the beauty and the bounty. But literally like putting your hands in the dirt will ground you. It is literally grounding.
I love that. And it's true. I was, even before you said that, I was going to say, I love to smell my hands when I've been weeding. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize that there was some magic about it, but that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Ah, Rachel, did you have one you wanted to add?
I did. Well, it's funny you mentioned gardening because I'm writing something about gardening right now about how it's processing and perspective. But so lately, when I'm trying to calm down out of anything, like, because my mind's been going all over the place, but what can I do with it? That's the question I ask myself. What can I do with this? And that just helps me recenter and empower myself to make a choice. What can I do with this? It's just a simple question. And it's really been helping lately, you know, and obviously processing what happened Saturday, it has helped tremendously because it's like, that's what it's all been about for me, is what can I do with this?
Oh, thank you. Love that. And I love that you brought it back to that choice and remembering, you know, the agency that we have. Polly, I know you have to run at exactly 2:30, so I just want to be mindful.
I lost track of time. I'm all in. I don't want to go.
Yeah, I know. It's always a little sad for me when I look up and I'm like, oh, we have to go. This has been so nourishing. And I just thank you so much, Reverend Maggie and Polly and everyone that was here. Thank you, Mango. These weekly gatherings are just, they are medicine. So I hope you'll all keep coming back, and we will have this replay, because I think there's so much that happened today that listening back and filling out your cards. Everybody make that card. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you
you all next week.
Bye-bye.
See you, Polly.
Good to see you.